Well. We are here way longer than I wanted to, or the wait between shows of the last Batman review and this new show on the Comic Binge has taken a little longer than I wanted to. But fear not, my friends, we will be announcing a fun little show here at the end. But yes, today we are going to be doing a little bit of a binge. When I say a little bit, today is the first time we're going to be doing an actual uh, binge, I'd say. First actual comic binge, if you will, of a substantial run of a character and a creative writer, and I would say artist, because the artists are all consistent on all these issues we read. So I'm super excited today. We are going to have some awesome people who joined us today. And yeah, we're not here. Chris Clow's not with us, but I have two other radical people I'm super stoked about. Yes, today I am joined with my friend Michael. Michael, hello, sir.
Hello.
Unmute
Good to
yourself,
be
please.
back.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
couldn't find the
thank you,
mute
as
button.
always.
You know how it works.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. I've been there. I've been there. And Adam, thank you for joining me again, once again, sir.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. I spilled Diet Coke on myself. That's pretty standard. Anyway, so today we are going to be covering, and I wrote this down because it's a lot. Basically, we're going to be doing Batman issues 360 to 366, and then I believe it's Detective Comics 527 to 531. Is that right? Am I right about that? Or
530,
32?
532, 533-ish.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of comics. Trust me, there's a lot of comics here.
Like 14
And,
comics.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a true binge. And if you're wondering why I wanted to do this, well, one, it's Batman. I'm on a huge Batman kick because obviously the movie was fantastic, and we've talked about, Mike was on the last show. Yeah, you're on the last show. I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, okay.
Michael, you're coming a regular. I like this.
Yeah,
I
I
like
know.
this.
One appearance,
I'm,
and
I'm
now you can't get rid of me.
it's fun. It's fun stuff. And then Adam obviously been on a number of shows. We do the Spidey show and everything. But I want to do a show where we kind of really got down and talked about a run that wasn't really well known. That's kind of the thing about the comic binge I want to try to really do is, people love, might find comics they like, but then what happens a lot of times is they'll find them and then they don't know where to go afterwards, and may not have a lot of friends who are into comics, and you go online, it's just like, here's a list, and it's intimidating.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
it is.
I want to encourage people to get involved in the conversations as much as possible. If it's like one person, whatever. So this is dedicated to the people who are excited about reading Batman comics after watching the Batman, who've already read year one and who've already read Dark Knight Returns. And trust me, I'm going with it somewhere at the end of the show to do a fun show announcement. In fact, I'll just do it now. So Tuesday, it's going to be a short little fun show. Me and Ryan Lauer from the Batman Book Club, which is a phenomenal podcast. If you have not listened to that podcast, get on it. The Batman Book Club. Since I've known Ryan, he just started the show a couple years ago, and I've been impressed with it ever since he launched it. He has been so consistent, and I've seen it grow, and he's growing leaps and bounds now. And he is just a legit radical dude. He's been on the show a couple times. I love the guy. Love you, Ryan. You know that. And he's gonna come on Tuesday, and we're gonna do a fun, short little episode, little stream about where to go after you've read the essential stuff. So if you've read Dark Knight Returns, you've read Year One, you've read Long Halloween, where do you go? Well, me and Ryan are gonna have a list of comics where you go, because there's a lot of people out there who are excited to read the Batman comics, and they don't know where to go. And we're going to tell them, kind of, after you read those essential stuff, this is where you go next. And this is kind of a precursor to that, because this is a run of a character, of a writer and some artists, that it's a substantial run. And I don't even know how long it goes after this as far as the artist goes. But Doug Moench, the writer we're going to be talking about today, he had, I believe he's a crime writer before he was a comic book writer. I don't know how accurate that is, but maybe I'm wrong. But Doug Moench, he's kind of a legend. He's kind of an unsung hero, I'd say. I'm not sure how familiar you are with them. I'll start with you, Michael. Are you familiar with Doug Moench at all?
No, I had never read anything he'd written. I wouldn't have even known the name before you mentioned it. So yeah, no, this is my first time reading any of his stuff.
Okay. Adam, are you familiar with Doug Moench at all?
I haven't read his stuff, but I know of him. I know that he's done a lot of Batman stuff. I didn't know that he'd been doing Batman stuff since the early 80s, but
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because
So
I know that his name is tied to Kelly Jones stuff in the '90s and like
yeah.
that vampire Elseworlds Batman story,
hmm Well,
stuff like that.
what's interesting was I remember I didn't realize it till after I was doing this research because I've heard his name a lot over the years for many reasons, but mainly because it was Marvel stuff. He was a Marvel
Right. Yeah.
writer, and he's the guy who was kind of responsible for like Shang-Chi. He's the guy responsible for Moon Knight, and that's the kind of thing that kind of
Yeah.
got me, was interesting was, and I started to do the show, I started realizing, learning more information about him, is that I didn't realize how long his run was. Like he had a huge run at first in the 80s, and he came back and wrote like 20, 30 more issues in the 90s. And he was a part of the Nightfall saga back in, with the Azrael Batman. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that at all, Michael.
I am aware of it, but I used to I think I had the action figure as a child,
Nice.
but no longer have it. But I do
I
remember
need it.
having an action figure I thought was rad. So
I need that. Yeah. I need the updated version of that. I might need to go and research that somewhere. But I didn't realize he came back and he wrote a long run on the character. Now, for those who don't know, Doug Mensch is in fact the creator of Moon Knight. Okay, so this guy is not just another random dude. This guy actually wrote the character of Moon Knight. He created the character and Werewolf by Night. Excuse me. And what's crazy to me is my computer's going really slow today. There we go. Werewolf by Night. He created Moon Knight in this character, and Doug Mensch is also known for his Shang-Chi comic books that he did, and had a lengthy run on that character. Basically kept the character kind of running for a long period of time, way longer than anyone ever probably anticipated. After Jim Starlin kind of introduced the character and whatnot, so what's fascinating is he creates Moon Knight, and again, I'm stealing a lot of this from Rob Liefeld recently. Rob Liefeld did a kind of a Moon Knight retrospective a little bit, and I found out some information while I was planning the show I was not even intending to. Well, this character was so popular that they gave him his own comic book. Okay. Now, Doug Mensch created Moon Knight, and then Bill Sienkiewicz and Doug Mensch create a ridiculous run on the character, and created some. Bill Sienkiewicz is that's a whole episode by itself. So whatever. But what's fascinating is apparently, according to Rob Liefeld and the editor that Len Wein, who helped make this comic book happen, this comic book was outselling Batman at the time. That's how crazy this was. Okay, so and I know Batman and DC weren't doing well at the time. So this is like 80, I believe 80 some 1880. This issue came out. So Moon Knight was outselling Batman at the time. That is crazy to me. And what's fascinating is this came out in 80. Well, then Mensch eventually this gets canceled. 3 years later, right? And what's crazy is that they bring Mensch, and Mensch comes on 3 years later to write The Dark Knight himself, which this is where our whole binge begins right here. Okay. And so for me, it's fascinating because Doug Mensch writes Moon Knight. People consider him a Batman character, but it was never really intended to be that character. But one of the editors actually told Doug Mensch, "We're going to do Batman better than DC." And I thought that was interesting. That's actually a quote that's been like pretty much confirmed by people. I think Len Wiener's. I forgot that maybe it wasn't Len, but I'm pretty sure it was one of the editor at the time of Moon Knight said that. That's what according to Rob, that they said that we're going to do Moon Knight better than, or we're going to do Batman better than than DC, which is crazy to me. And so I started this binge. And so it was really fascinating to me that we got to go on this. I kind of wanted to really get a really good idea of the character because I've read not all of the Moon Knight run of Doug Mensch, but I read a lot of it, and I wanted to kind of see what was the kind of differences between two characters, and if there's actually is differences, right? So I'll kind of kick it off to you first, Michael. You have no idea where I asked you to come on the show. You agreed to read a crap load of issues, which is really fun, by the way. I guess it's just your first kind of real deep dive that wasn't to a mainstream kind of Batman story. I just want comic story that is.
Yeah, for me, yeah, this was definitely the first time I've like just dove into like a a just run right in the middle. I've read the only other runs I've read is I'd read most of the New 52 Scott Steiner stuff as it was coming out.
Mhm.
But beyond that, the only Batman stuff I'd read is the hits, the
Yeah.
kind of year one, your Dark Victory, your Long Halloween, Hush, that the sort
Right.
of collected stuff kind of really focused on one thing. So, it was definitely interesting to just kind of dive right into the middle and just kind of, start from a creator's run that, especially one that like I'd heard nothing about, had nowhere where it was going to go. The final arc in this is wild. So I would have guessed.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
it was definitely fun jumping in.
Right on, right on. Adam, what was your take on? I mean, your history with Doug mentioned this character, and you again. We talked about on our last show with, for Dark Knight, Dark City, that you kind of wanted to get more into Batman comics. So I thought you were a perfect person for this because this is a big, this is a big run. We read 14, whatever, how many issues you said it was, and
It was
we
like
started,
14.
yeah, 14. We started here at 360, and it's lengthy, but
It goes it goes like 100 issues.
yeah, it's a lot, man. It's a lot, and so
Or like 40. He goes like 40-ish.
yeah,
I'm looking at it now. It goes like 40, and then anyway, yeah.
yeah.
It's a
So
lot. It's a lot. This is like a quarter of the run, kind
right,
of.
right. We got a good substantial run, and this is following up Jerry Conway, which is the
Yeah.
famous Spider-Man writer. And it bums me out because I really want to read the Conway stuff, but when I looked on, this is not collected and traded at all, too, which is
It is.
crazy to me.
The Conway
Wait,
stuff
the
is
Mensch stuff,
collected.
the Mensch stuff,
Some of this stuff is collected.
some, but not the whole run,
Yeah.
because
It's in
because
like because they have the writers and the artist series for Batman.
yeah,
and,
because
like,
yeah,
and
we'll get yeah.
It's in like some of the Colin ones.
Colin
and-
ones, yeah. Which, but here's the thing: Conway and Marv Wolfman, they have all their collections, which I was bummed out because the Conway, I guess, Volume 3 is like out of print, or it's like hard to get, so it's like double the price. But all the other ones are like cheap, way cheaper. I'm like, God damn it! Hate when that happens. I love Conway. Conway's a great writer. I actually really want to read his Batman stuff at one point, but
me too, actually. I'm actually interested in reading because I figured that Conway was before this.
he was right. He was literally right before this.
Yeah,
Right,
because they're saying like, oh, the Jason Todd stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, because didn't Conway bring in Jason Todd and Killer Croc and stuff like that?
Yeah,
they're
so
talking about that right in the middle of this, so it's like, oh yeah,
yeah, which I want to get into in a second. So anyway, so you kind of knew a little bit. I wanted to get you into the comics. You want to read more of a deeper run. So this is I think a good kind of a good first kind of time out on the character. That's not just like the greatest hits, like what Michael said. That's the point.
It was interesting. I think, it's interesting.
Okay, that makes me nervous. Okay, so I have no real kind of rhyme or reason here, but I guess I'll just kind of go. Adam, I'll let you start it off. What was your overall take of reading? Just hold on, just bear with me here. What's your, give me some positives, or give me your overall thoughts, and we'll go with positive. What was your overall take of this kind of initial run with the writer?
It's a good question. I thought, well, one thing that sticks out is I think that the writing and the art complement each other pretty well.
Yeah.
The writing's kind of moody and kind of like there's like a melancholy sometimes, and then the art, I think, portrays that well. It's a very it's a dark run, but it's also kind of not, it's not like super, horrifically dark, but it's very just kind of, I don't know. There's this dark mood over the whole thing. I mean, Batman's constantly talking about how, he is the night, and there's a lot of night imagery.
There is. Yeah. That's a good point because of Nocturna later on, which I want to talk about that. Yeah, I've got some things to say about this. But overall, did you enjoy reading these 14 issues?
Yeah, I think so. Overall.
Okay. All right. What was some drawbacks? Give me some drawbacks.
Drawbacks.
Yeah.
I think I thought that the prose was maybe a little too
heavy narration.
Yeah, maybe a little. Yeah, I think it was like some of the narration was a little heavy. Some of it. But
This is a fantastic page, by the way. This is
it's still.
amazing.
But I don't know. But I think it works though, and this is this is a totally different era of comics, so it's
Yeah,
to be
this is.
expected.
It is.
Um,
And that's with anything you watch or read, right? I mean, when you watch an
yeah,
old movie, it's not you're not expecting to be like, fast cutting. It's like back then they
yeah,
like kind of they took their time, which again I
yeah.
really like, right? So I mean, in music too, right? I mean, you're the sound. I mean, we're both music people. It's like when I listen to like a Who record from like the early '60s, I'm not like gonna expect like stellar production as far as like it like sound like I can hear the bass clearly. It's gonna be super
Sure.
muddied and buried in like tons of guitars and
Hmm.
again you gotta kind of know what you're getting yourself into. But would you think these are would you think like even at the time of like look, they've aged and there's obviously this is 40 years old now,
Yeah.
but do you think these are like would you consider these like bad comic books?
I wouldn't say they're bad. No, they're not bad at all.
Would you think you're sounds like you're again? I'm just kind of diving in here and trying to get in your head a little bit. It sounds like you're saying this is more of a byproduct of the era than anything. Like it's just kind of more of like over time these aren't going to read as impactful, from that standpoint anyway.
Yeah, I think a little bit. Well, like, cause this isn't, this is like pre-crisis stuff, right? So like,
Yeah,
we're
this is
not.
pre-crisis. This is
This is
wholly pre-crisis.
so they're like, and yeah, and this is like way before. Well, this is like I think a few years before year one. So like, this is way before um the Batman that most people are used to in the
Mhm.
current day. I think.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it is a bit tonal. The character is a little different. Like I said, there's this dark tone, but it's not like totally bleak. It's not very like um it's not like pitch black. It's like a midnight
yeah.
blue.
Yeah, well, yeah, blue right here.
Yeah.
Michael, you've been reading. For those who don't know, Michael's been reading Daredevil from like start to finish, and I know you're in like the '80s right now, or like I think you just got past the Miller era, and you're
Yeah, I'm
Danny
like
O'Neill.
at
Yeah,
200 and I think I'm on like 201 or 203 or something like that.
I might have when you get to Born Again, we might have to have you on and do a big Daredevil splash on that one. But you're and I don't know if I've been like if I'm just want you to get more into comic books, but I feel like it's like I'm just actively trying to make you read as much as I can. Like, no, Michael, you need to read this. So I don't know. I appreciate you always willing to come on and read comics. It's awesome, honestly awesome. But from your perspective of someone who's getting more into comics, it seems like lately, I'm hoping anyway, and you're reading more, how does this read compared to that era, because you're reading this era basically right now essentially.
Yeah.
So how does it compare to that and just overall the other Batman stories that you've read recently?
Yeah, I think that one thing that really stood out to me, and it's kind of weird. I don't know why this is, but it felt like if you looked at, because, for those who haven't read it, this arc takes place in both Batman and Detective Comics. You read
Yes,
an issue
thank
of
you. Yes.
Batman, then you read an issue of Detective Comics, seeming
That's
like they both.
actually
It
that's
seems like
very
they.
like ahead of its time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one thing I was gonna ask is like, is that very common, especially is that a thing that's happened within the Batman story?
I don't
You know,
know.
because like I know like when I was reading the New 52 stuff, like they
Right.
weren't doing that, and like I think it's one thing it was really interesting to have one writer write two comics and literally
Yeah.
separate. Obviously it feels like the sort of thing where in most cases they would just put out two issues of Batman a month. But I guess, with Batman, there's a history of Detective Comics. You want to still do that. So you do both. But it was really interesting. But yeah, go ahead.
No, please,
Yeah, yeah. I was
keep
gonna
going.
say to like get the point I was going to make before I sidetracked myself. Is is it felt like looking at the different runs, it felt like the first, if you look at the first two sets of issues, so the first two Detective, first two Batman, it
Hmm.
felt like she was trying to write them in a different way. If you looked at the Detective stuff, it was a
Yeah.
lot of narration. Like I think to
Yeah.
Adam's
Yeah,
point,
detective.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it
Okay.
was like pages and pages full of narration of
That's a
internal
good point.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I really struggled on those first two detective issues.
The
And
Man-Bat stuff. And the
yeah, and
Savage Skull.
it
Okay.
felt really dated, even like, like you're saying, reading a lot of Daredevil stuff of this era and comparing the writing to that era, and it felt dated even compared to other stuff from kind of a similar time. It felt a lot more of the style of, some of the 70s and 60s stuff where
Right.
they are explaining, like, Batman as saying out loud, "Good thing I came in through the other door." And
Right.
so
Yeah.
that Man-Bat hears, he's like saying the things that, as a reader you might be like, did they think about this? Wouldn't Man-Bat figure it out? And they're just like, oh, we got to have a line where Batman explains why that isn't the case.
Right.
And so, the sort of writing you don't see to these days, and I think in other stuff in the 80s you didn't see it, and I think he gets away from that after those first few issues, and the two series start to kind of feel more consistently written, at least in the the approach of it.
Mhm.
So I definitely struggled with those first few issues, and I think after that, I think it picked up for me for sure. I think, let me check my note. I think there was one, I was taking notes. There was one where I
boy.
felt like, I think like Batman like 361. That one is where I think it felt like it picked up for me, and like I was getting more into it. I think that was the
Okay.
Riddler one, I
Yeah.
think
Riddler
maybe.
story was
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It started to really pick up for me, I think, there, and I started enjoying it a lot more, and I think that continued through the rest of the issues.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I wanted to do this arc, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I was like, I'm just gonna go for it, and I'm just gonna talk about it on the show, and grab some people and just kind of people who love comics, and we'll just talk about it because I love one of the things I want to really just take that whole idea of like I can't just jump in and run. It's like, yeah, you can. You can just jump in, man. Like just go for it. Like what happened to me? Like when I was doing this whole thing, I realized like I'm like, what's the order? I just grabbed the Man-Bat issue and I went, Savage Skull. I went, oh wait a minute. Oh, I had to read that one for. Oh crap. So that's why I was like, guys,
That was what
let's
happened
start
with
here.
me, actually. I actually didn't think they were going to be interconnected, so I started with. I was like, "Oh, detective."
I said 360. I said 360.
No, but I still thought that that maybe it wasn't.
Right.
It was loosely.
I was like,
but
like, oh, maybe the detective ones are a little shorter. Maybe I'll start with that. So I started reading. And I was like, oh, okay. I stopped a bit, and then I looked again. I was like, oh wait. I looked at actually the whole order, and I was like, oh wait a minute. This starts before here. And
right, yeah. Which again, but that's kind of the fun too. I realized, oh crap, I read that out of place. Oops. All I did is went right back to the previous issue. I went, okay, cool. I started from there, and I was good.
Same.
So
Yeah.
I want to encourage people to like the beautiful thing of Marvel Unlimited and DC Universe is that you can just go back and read this stuff, and it's just easy to jump. It's so easy to jump in and read a run. It's so easy, and like how I did it. I'm like, I've never read Doug Moench's Batman stuff. I went online and said, "Where's the starting point?" Right there. Okay, I'm going in, and and like you said, Michael, like it was crazy because I didn't even think about it at that time how often did companies do that back and forth thing with the characters? Because even Spider-Man at that time, they didn't really do interconnected of the two series. They were their own thing for a long time.
They didn't really do that. Well, they did it with Kraven's Last Hunt, but they didn't really do it until like the Clone Saga, I think. Where it was like totally,
But even then, though, before Kraven's Last Hunt, there was nothing.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. It was crazy. So, like, I almost think that you brought up a great point that, maybe this might be one of the first times they've done that. And what's crazy, what you brought up, Adam, this is pre-crisis, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with. Again, when I say pre-crisis, for those who don't know, and Michael, I don't know how familiar you are with that term.
I've heard of. I know of Crisis of Infinite Earths. I couldn't tell you. It has something to do with the Flash resetting their timeline, probably.
Yeah.
More or less, yeah.
Well, that's a different. But this is a great example. For people who are new to comic books, and if you're watching this again, if you're one person, maybe one person, I don't know. If you're watching this, you have no idea what the hell we're talking about. Infinite Crisis was in the 80s, the first time that DC Comics wanted to reset their continuity because they knew that when Marvel they tried to do it kind of as you can see here, you could see that they're trying to do Len Wein, who's doing the editing of the series. He's been trying to do like the Marvel thing, like see
Yeah,
issue
yep.
whatever this and whatever
Yep,
that. They're
yep.
trying to clean. Yeah, they're trying to clean up the continuity, but they were so. The 60s and 50s were so dark for DC. They were all over the place, and they realized in the 80s they needed to reset things, and so they had Infinite Crisis, which was their way of trying to revamp everything and reset everything to like everyone. It was a good jumping on point, basically. And this is before that. So Jason Todd has red hair. Like Jason Todd's origin
Yeah.
later on after Infinite Crisis is different than what we have here, which
I was
he could.
gonna-
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get to that in a second. But so anyway, if you're not knowing what that is, just know that it's a big continuity reshift of the many reshifts that DC does. It's the first major one and it happened in the 80s. It's actually, for the record, a gorgeous comic to read. George Perez, Marv Wolfman do it. It's actually really good. It's actually some of my favorite DC comics ever. It's really really heavy like continuity stuff, but from a visual like just medium standpoint, it's gorgeous. George Perez is we'll go read it. It's fan. We'll cover it in the binge one day. But anyway, um, but it's fascinating that this is all pre-crisis and like and Mensch is really going deep on the stuff. And yeah, we have Jason Todd, which I gotta tell you, I had no idea I was getting into a Jason Todd story with this. And so, did you guys know? I totally I remembered I read it. Like I didn't read these comics, but I read that what his original origin was basically Dick Grayson 2.0.
That's what I think that's why I was like telling you, man. I was like he's like I want to be Batman's new partner or I'm going back to the circus. And I'm like, good, go back to the circus.
So harsh, man. So harsh. Come on.
He was kind of, I don't know. He was a little much for me, I gotta say. I don't know. I mean, he's all right. He's just a kid, but I don't know. I was just like, all right, fine, go back to the circus.
What do you think, Michael? What was that all about?
I mean, this was the first time I've read anything with Jason Todd in it. I think, other than
honestly,
other than the new stuff, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't
me,
think
yeah.
he was really in any of the new stuff that I've read too much at all, unless I'm just
Really?
forgetting something. Yeah,
Okay.
and so I had no clue his origin. And like when the circus thing came, I was like, is Bruce just like perusing circuses and like kidnapping children? Like, what's going on here, Bruce? This is a weird pattern you're developing. It's like. So it's like I had no idea what his current backstory is, what his old backstory was, and that was my biggest one of my biggest takeaways from this was the weird patterns, Bruce.
Yeah, what is
developed.
going on?
So again, I want to bring up the fact that like, did you have trouble picking up on that? Like, or you kind of both you guys were okay.
Yeah.
We get what happened. I like me. Okay, cool.
They explained
Yeah.
it. They explained in the
Yeah.
thing. They basically say that like, well, should I say what they
Yeah,
say?
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead. You're fine.
Basically, he said like they explain in like a couple of the issues that like he was like Dick Grayson. He was an acrobat in the circus, and his family gets killed by like Killer Croc, who's a different Killer Croc in this. He's because I think when Conway created him, he's more of like a mobster, but he's still like kind of lizardy. So like, and that's basically Dick Grayson's origin. So it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Which by the way, this cover is phenomenal. Like this
Striking.
this is a goddamn comic book cover right here, man. That's freaking gorgeous.
That was one of my favorite things. They had a lot of great covers and a lot of awesome. You brought up a couple of them earlier. A lot of really awesome like title pages.
Oh yeah, dude. I'll find
consistently the title pages were awesome. Yeah, like that one. That one
cool.
might be my favorite one, but there were a lot of awesome ones throughout the run.
Yeah, no, this was, and I want to say for the record too that like this is a really for me like the art was one of the more interesting aspects of this run because you brought up a good point too earlier, Adam, that the art it felt moodier. Like, you know, Detective was moodier or whatever, and it felt dark. I felt like that was definitely a Colin and no, they had mainly two artists. There was Colin for Batman, and then Colin was on Detective, and then Newton, the guy Dan Newton, he was on the Batman title. Yeah, and Colin's stuff is super moody, man. Like Colin's stuff was just there's Opa. Nolan's or Colin's stuff was just moody as hell. It's just awesome. Man, he's so good. I was curious what you guys thought on the art in general. Like, what was your guys' take on the art? Because I'm Colin's a legend. Like, he's always been a legend. And again, Michael, he's a Daredevil guy. So what was it interesting seeing Colin from Daredevil into this? Because he's definitely progressed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was cool. I enjoyed that. I think it like the vibe was it came with like a similar vibe. At least obviously on my memory of all of his Daredevil stuff, but like it felt like a consistent vibe. Like Batman and Daredevil both tend to be kind of darker in tone, and I think it was good. I think one of the things that I think was most interesting, I think on sorry.
It's all
I'll
good,
take
man.
a pause.
You're good. You're good. Opa. Um, but what's really crazy about this, like, this is Colin right here, or I believe, and it's just gorgeous, man. Like, guy can just tell a story, and I love just how, like you said, how moody it is, and I feel like it definitely fits. The character really, really well. And it makes me want to go read all his comics, to be honest. All the comics that he did with Batman, just because of the visual standpoint, is phenomenal. I'm pretty sure Conway and him probably had a lengthy run on Batman. I'm assuming beforehand, but yeah. So you could definitely feel like like you said, Michael, earlier, that when you read all those old comics, it go in and it go out, but like the art, the visuals for me always stick out. And I remember, all the Ross Andrews stuff I loved, the Romita stuff I loved of Spider-Man. I can only imagine, like, you see like some hints of the greatness of Colin, and throughout that Daredevil stuff, and then like, oh crap, like you see this, like, man, he's really gone to the next level, it seems like.
Yeah, and
But
I think one thing that's interesting, like with the way that these two comics intertwine, is I feel like the different artists. I think a lot of times when you're reading a run of a specific thing and they switch artists, or you know, it can be a little jarring. And I feel like these two artists were very complementary. Like it felt like
Yep.
it felt like one consistent run, like visually. You weren't
yeah,
like you could tell whose was whose, especially like especially when it came to like stuff like the colors, like
yeah,
you got a lot of purples and pinks from the I don't know who did the coloring on the Colin stuff, but a lot of the detective stuff, you'd have a lot of like bright purples and pinks in the background, and so you could kind of they had their own signature elements, but like at the same time, like it felt like a consistent. It wasn't jarring to switch from artist to artist.
look at this cover, dude. It's phenomenal. Like, Colin, like, is just unreal, dude. Like, this is the stuff I'm talking about for comic books, that, like, I just wish that more artists and writers would, or not writers, excuse me, more artists would do for covers. Like, this is a creative play on what's in the issue, and it's not like does this literally happen? No, but
No.
but but it gives you an idea of it's phenomenal. It's what's missing in current comics in general. And every once in a while you get something like this, and it's cool in current comics, but for the most part it's absent. It sucks. Um Kind of finishing up on the Jason Todd thing, what's interesting is that Jason Todd's origin, I didn't know it was part of the Killer Croc and that whole thing. What's fascinating, if you guys haven't read this, we did or again, a shameless plug, we did a review of this comic series, Robin and Batman, Jeff Lemire's Black Label series, or I don't know, I think Black Label, I think it's just the Prestige series, whatever. Killer Croc is part of this origin, I believe, a little bit. So I don't know if it was a purposeful, and it's not Jason Todd either. It's interesting. It's interesting. Um, the last thing I'll say about Jason Todd is the last story is Joker, and I'm not sure if you guys thought that was ironically funny or not. That Jason Todd basically becomes
yeah.
Robin for the first time
Yeah.
with the Joker,
Didn't even think about that.
and then he gets ended by the Joker for the last time
Yeah.
years later. That I was like, whoa, that's kind of bonkers. I didn't think about that. So, is that lost on anyone? I guess I was the only one.
I did not think about that,
Yeah,
but
I didn't
yeah.
think about it either, but yeah.
Is that crazy? I'm like, oh crap! Like, that's legit. Like, that's oh god, that's kind of weird. I'm like, that's interesting. Yeah, this is the issue. There we go. Here it is. Sorry. Yeah, this was interesting. I was not expecting this in the run, and it's a spoiler, I guess, a little bit, but whatever. It's not that bad, I don't think.
I want to know
I
where he
liked
got his hair dyed.
this. I thought it was interesting. Dude, that is that was kind of messed up. Like, think about that. Like, well, not messed up because he obviously want to keep his identity. You know, I mean, you don't want to like. I mean, it makes more sense to do diet than wear normal hair and not do anything with it. But but I know that there was I forgot what comic it was, but like I think he like Jason basically calls out Bruce for like making me dye my hair black like Dick. I was like, damn.
It's like well,
yeah, well,
it's like now we know the true story.
Yeah, now we know. Yeah, now we know you did it yourself, Jason. You manipulating jerk. You know, I mean,
It's
whatever.
Like, you wanted to be Batman's partner so badly, or else you were going to go back to the circus, which I was totally fine with.
So yeah, I love this. I loved it. Also, again, going back to the parallels with Death in the Family. Also, the fact that Joker is in a different country,
Bro,
like
I thought
again,
about that was what I picked up on actually, but not the
super
Robin
weird.
Thing. That was it. Yeah, I thought about that. I was like, oh, interesting.
So again, if you have you read Death in the Family, Michael?
No, I have not. I don't think. Yeah.
Okay.
I've read Death of the Family, but not Death.
Well, that's the Snyder one. That's the Snyder one.
Yeah.
No, this is Death in the Family of when Jason dies. Joker is in a different country, and like so, it's just it mirrors this almost bizarrely. Dude, even getting crazier. That took place in the Middle East, like in very dry deserty area. This is in like tropical. This is weird, man. This is getting almost weird, weird to me.
It's the inverse of everything.
No, it's the inverse of everything.
It's the total inverse.
I don't know if that's intentional, but
it's almost. I mean,
it almost feels like it is.
It feels intentional when you look at it's the inverse of that, and like he becomes Robin, he dies as Robin.
Right.
It's different climates, it's different countries, and different points in time. Like
it's bonkers, man. It's bonkers. So yeah, so like I'm trying to find some ones I haven't really done very much here. So yeah, this is great. This is Infantino. I'm sorry, Colin, just masterful. Like this to me is like this is like early on in the series. I know you weren't really a fan of this, Michael, but I really liked this this layout. It's very simple, but I thought it was a good mesh of the dialogue, and just it was dynamic because you have the long panel here, and then just layering it out underneath it, and really giving an example and giving detail of kind of foreshadowing a little bit of detail. And I love this. This is a great example of giving us exposition, but dynamically and just again cinematic, because you have 5 panels of just basic them talking, and it's dynamic because you have the close up of Gordon, and then you have the silhouette of Batman, and it's just every panel is not just them staring at each other. It's giving an interesting thing. Artists, take notes, man. Colin's put on a clinic here. He shows you want to do exposition. This is how you do it in comic books.
Yeah, I will say I did. Oh, the art was consistently great. I think it was just the writing in the first.
No, I get you.
Couple issues that for me.
Totally.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to bring up also, and I'm sure you guys picked up on this, was this kind of aspect was gosh darn it. This we go. Is a lot of new characters. And again, Mensch in the first 14 issues, he introduces 3 brand new characters. Or villains, I should say. Villains. Characters too, obviously, but he introduces Nocturna, Chimera, which Chimera that qualify as a villain. Whatever. We'll get there. But the Savage Skull.
Well, let's get him in the Batman too.
No. Listen, for the record,
I'm serious.
Yeah, I'm being serious. I was reading this. I'm like,
you could do that, and it would fit.
I had meant to go back and see if he has come back at all. I was like, dang, this is actually kind of a cool villain. I'm like, a really interesting, he set him up perfectly. Again, Colin's art. on that first reveal. I think it was like him and his knife is again that title page that you were talking about, Michael. That he's like, it's like him like stab someone. I'm like, damn, like this is cool. Like I liked it, and even Nocturna, I really like Nocturna too. I'm like, like Mensch brought in some interesting characters in this, and I'm like, one of the things I thought was funny was Mensch brought back the Man Bat, which I think he had been gone for a long time. Like he kind of started off this run with a bang. Like a lot of characters or a lot of writers, the tendency is always to introduce new characters because you're putting your stamp on the character. And here he did that, but he also brought in he brought back Man Bat, and then he brought in Riddler, a classic, and then we ended with the Joker. It felt very natural. I thought I was very impressed how he was bringing these characters in here. We'll get to those supporting cast here before we end, but I want to get your guys' take on new characters. Michael, again, these are all new characters to me anyway, and I'm assuming to you as well. Did you like any of these characters yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think the what's his face, what's the
Savage Skull?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he was fine. I didn't have any particular attachment to him.
I
But
liked him.
Nocturna was the one I thought was really interesting as a character. I really liked her kind of scenes with Bruce
Yeah,
at his party. I thought those were really interesting, and like just the dynamic there was good. Yeah, I think she was definitely my favorite of the kind of new characters.
yeah. See, I'm glad you say that because even Nocturna, to be honest, I feel could even fit into in the Batman. To be honest, there's ways you
Could
could
work.
you could
It
make
could
it work.
I think it could work. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of the deformity aspects of Batman's rogues gallery and things like that could really fit. You can make it work in the, you know, 'cause especially if you look, if we eventually do Earth One, which is I'm really fascinated to see what you guys think about that. Actually, we'll get Chris back with that. We might have to get you. I might have to get you guys back for Earth One. Earth One's a real, yeah. We'll talk about Earth One later.
I've heard things.
I tell you right now, I could understand a little bit the last volume being criticized,
Right,
but
because I heard about
yeah, but even that one I thought was pretty good. But anyway, but like yeah, there's aspects of Nocturne I thought was interesting. I thought Savage Skull was really cool. I thought he was a really interesting character. Chimera, yeah, it was whatever.
Yeah,
It was whatever.
I legit thought that it was definitely the clown, because the first time that I don't know which artist did the clown.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
he
I
was
know.
terrifying.
Yes,
looking.
exactly.
The
I was
panel,
like,
It was
I was
the
like,
cold.
I was like, Alfred, what
No,
the hell are you doing?
I think it was Newton actually. I think it
Was
was
it
Don
really?
Newton. I think he gets introduced in a Don Newton issue, and the way that Don Newton draws him, he just has like he's like kind of starkly lit, and he's got this like weird smile, and it's like,
Yeah. It's like
what's going on here?
Legit terrifying. I was like,
Yeah.
Alfred, you need to be put in jail for endangering this child.
And then I like how in one issue Alfred's just like, oh, I think he says like, I surmise that Jason is just hanging out with his clown friend Waldo. It's like, what?
Waldo. It's like, wait, what?
What?
Like,
oh God.
Bruce is a bad father. Alfred also a bad father. That's what we learned in this run. One thing on Nocturna real quick. So, tying into Jason. The other thing I think that the reason I think I liked her the most is she was kind of the one that got the most actual development, and like she was like kind of a sympathetic character. Like I really liked her moment with Jason in the woods.
Yeah.
Like, basically being like, no, you should go back to him. Like,
right.
And like, she wasn't just, evil for, because she's crazy,
Yeah.
I like her basically being like, no, yeah, he loves you. You should go back to him. He probably just doesn't, want to lose you. And then, I thought that was just like an interesting twist I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's a good point. I forgot that Jason. They had that good moment, and she does tell him to go back because he's all depressed. She's like, "What are you doing here in that cave, whatever?" Because like, the cave? Isn't there like treasure in the cave too, or something like that?
She has all her treasure in the cave. It's like, what is going on here?
The newspapers.
She picked up the newspaper somewhere along the way.
It's weird. See, the thing about this run that's actually I think kind of weird is that it's sort of it's totally different. It really is different than what Batman will become in a few years, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's still kind of holding on to some of that old kind of goofiness, like from
Mhm.
like oh, there's all this like adventure stuff, like oh yeah, like Nocturna is in a cave with all her treasure, and the Riddler is like doing these corny riddles, like it's a Batman 66 episode, like.
Yeah.
And the
But they're fun.
Joker,
Yeah.
Yeah,
then the
and you get
Joker's
some.
like trying to make Jokerland in
Yeah,
That's a good
In
point.
South
Yeah.
America.
yeah, and
It's like
and you also got Batman with some quips. Like he had a
right,
couple one-liners here and there too.
which I don't really mind that
Yeah, I don't
actually.
mind that either. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's a misconception, and I know a lot of people, not a lot of people. There's a number of people, a podcast I like and admired, were really hard on the Nolan trilogy for making Batman super super broody, and sucking. I think one of them even I don't want to say their name out loud, but they said sucking all the fun out of Batman is what and I think there's some truth to that a little bit. And the Batman, the brilliant Matt Reeves film, kind of does similar things. And let's be real, Frank Miller sucked the fun out of Batman.
Yeah.
The goofiness all out of the Batman, with
Mhm.
Dark Knight Returns. But at the same time, this era, it feels natural. I don't mind the quips as much for me,
Yeah,
but
I didn't either. It was just something. It's definitely something I
no,
noticed. Yeah,
yeah,
like you said, it's
you
not
definitely
something you
notice
get
it.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's something. I almost think they should bring that back. Not bring it back like not full circle, but bring elements of that back. You know what I mean? Like to that character. 'Cause I definitely feel like Batman's a lot. Actually, you know what? I'll take it back. The Batman is a little bit better, the movie, than Nolan, because Batman still makes jokes
Yes, he
in
does.
the Batman,
And they're
and they're
funny.
fantastic. And they're funny because they're so dry, and he's
Exactly. Yup.
serious,
Yup.
right?
Uh-huh,
Oh
yup.
God, it's so good.
That's what
Oh,
because
God,
when you
I love
guys
it.
did that
I want to
show,
watch it again so bad, right? I'd go.
when you guys did that show last week, I said in the comments it was naturally funny, and it is. It really is. Like it's because it's so dry. It's just like it's not like goofy, over the top stuff. It's just kind of like it's dry. It comes out naturally. Like Batman responds in a dry way
Yeah,
that is funny, and it's not like it's not even because he's serious. It's because he actually is making a joke. Like, are you horribly scarred under there? He's like, yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, I
Um,
I will
digress.
say
But yeah,
I did
yeah. No,
legit. Oh,
no,
sorry.
no. It's
I was just gonna say one thing.
no
The
good.
other thing I legit thought was hilarious in this is in that final arc when Joker's like, "All right, I'm gonna tell Batman my secret plan," and the guards are like,
yeah,
"Dude,
exactly.
why are you gonna? That's Batman. Why are you telling him the plan?"
And then
He
he
just hits him
kills.
with a big hammer.
Yeah,
Then the other
exactly.
guy's like, "Hey, stop!" And he's like, "Oh wait, never mind.
Yeah, he
Just
looks
kidding."
over at the other one.
Yeah,
Yep.
like that was legit hilarious.
So this is Savage Skull versus Batman right here, and you can see again. This is
They're
just
boxing
colon.
too.
Just
They're boxing,
oh
by the
God.
way.
This is definitely a
No,
bring me back to
and
Daredevil.
Oh yeah, possibly. Yeah, I could see that.
no, but dude, look at this. This layout is incredible. Look how dynamic this is, man. Like,
Hmm.
I love how there's like the background panel, and then it's all white,
Yeah.
but you see like Batman. Just again, it's interesting right here in the bottom. You bring it back to Gordon, and you see Batman here, and like, I love, dude. I know this is I like this ironically, but the last balloon there. I'm proud of you, Batman.
Yeah, it's like Gordon the
It's so
cheerleader.
I know. I'm proud of you, Batman. Thanks, Gordon. Really quick before we leave, one thing I always forgot, and I haven't read a ton of comics with him. It was Harvey Bullock. My
Yeah.
introduction to him was in the animated series,
Yep.
and this was like, oh man, like Harvey Bullock, like he shows up in this, and I gotta tell you, he put him on an arc, man.
Yeah.
I was really, again, I was kind of impressed how he was able to kind of bring Harvey, give him some humanity. Because at first I'm
Yep.
like, okay, he's your stereotypical like jerk guy,
Yeah.
whatever. But he gave him some heart. I'm like, dang, dude, like he gave him a good kind of a little bit of a some momentum there. What was your take on that at all, Mike? Did you like Harvey Bullock?
Yeah, I'm kind of same as you that I only knew him. I literally have never seen him in any comics. I've only known him from the animated series, and yeah, I did enjoy that. And it is one thing that I thought was really interesting about this run is I feel like it's almost in some ways Batman was not the main character of this run. The characters that get
Yeah,
like
yeah.
actual character growth and development are
Yeah.
Jason, are Harvey,
Mhm.
um, are Gordon. Like they're the ones who get the character development, and then Batman's kind of there with fighting a villain, a new villain every other week, every other issue or something like that, and you know, and like kind of setting the stage for their other characters' character growth, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like I really liked, emphasizing how Gordon is basically he's struggling and he's trying to keep it together. And there's that whole idea of like Batman's, you better take care of yourself, Gordon. He's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
and I really liked the dynamics. Mensch, again, for the era, you could tell Mensch he knew what he was doing. I thought, for the most part. And again, going back, reading something that's 40-year-old comic books, again, knowing the era and everything, I thought they're pretty well done. In fact, I probably will continue the arc, not the binge here soon, at some point again because I definitely enjoyed it and curious because I know he brings back I think Catman at some point. Um, there's a lot of stuff he does in this run, so I'm very curious what he does later on. And obviously, he was successful. He wrote again. The back and forth idea was really fascinating. I thought that was really interesting because not only that, because he's also having to write for the fact that he's not doing a whole issue of detective. So he has to write his stories like 22 pages, then like 12, 13 pages, then 22 pages and 13 pages. So he really had like to condense his story down a certain way. It was just interesting. I thought it was really fascinating. So overall, I thought I liked this. I liked it. I thought it was good. Um, it wasn't perfect, not by me, not by any means, but is it something that I think that like is worth reading? I think it's worth reading. I think it's if you want like some fun Batman stories that aren't like heavy and you get a really good history of the character. I think not just from like a history wise of like what he's doing as a character, but I think from the medium standpoint of the artists that are working with them. I think development of again Colin, Mensch. Again, these are guys. Or Colin's a legend, and Mensch is kind of like kind of an unsung hero in my opinion. People don't talk about him enough. I mean, he's done a lot for these characters, and he's on that Batman book a long ass time. So I liked it. I'm going to continue reading it. Again, it's not Frank Miller. It's not Dark Knight Returns. It's not. I would say it's not even Hush, and I know Hush gets a lot of hate, but it's not bad. I don't think Hush is bad either, by the way. So we'll talk later about Hush. But yeah, I liked it. So closing thoughts, Michael. What's your take on this whole art
Yeah,
binge?
I'd say like yeah. Overall, I think I definitely enjoyed it. Like I said, I thought that it starts a little slow. I think, but once we got past that, like kind of the initial few issues, I think I really did enjoy it. It goes some weird, wacky routes. I kind of would have liked a little bit more of like I said, a Batman arc, um, like a consistent Batman thread. But
Yeah,
I think it's but maybe that would have just made it harder to follow jumping in right away. Um, and only reading kind of this subsection of it. But
yeah.
yeah, I think overall I enjoyed it. I will say I couldn't stop thinking of Gordon as being Colonel Sanders though the entire time. That was. I don't think I'm used to seeing him being so old.
Yeah, he's
That's an older notion too. That like he was an older guy.
yeah because in the New 52 they brought him back with red hair and stuff like that, like from year one basically. So that is
Yeah,
interesting.
because my version of Gordon has always been the animated series version, which is pretty consistent with the New 52 one. I think at
Whoa,
least in
whoa, whoa,
appearance, a
hold on,
little
hold
bit.
on, hold on.
I
Wait,
guess I guess he's not quite. I guess he has like
he
gray
looks kind
hair.
of like Colonel Sanders in that too. Let's be real. I
Not
mean,
as like slightly less Colonel Sanders.
he's more. He's like he has a stockier chin that drills. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no. What's Colin definitely was like. I need to base Gordon off someone. Colonel Sanders. But, oh, perfect. That's probably what he's doing. Basically, I don't know. Interesting. I'm glad. First of all, thank you for reading these comics. I know it's you're a busy guy, and so again, I love talking comics with you, man. It's been a lot of fun. I gotta get you on. I think for Earth One and Court of Owls. We gotta get you on for Court of Owls too. I definitely you're into that. That's more your jam, your bread and butter. So yeah, we'll get you on for. Well, obviously, I'll get you on soon, but as long as you're able to. Adam, what's your kind of final thoughts on the series and kind of just in closing? And did you enjoy yourself reading these comics?
Yeah, they're enjoyable. I like them. I like them. I don't love them. I like the art a lot.
Art's really good.
I think there's definitely interesting layouts going on. I remember, well, you earlier you said something about Ross Andrew, and near the end, I think it's Gene Colan is doing this page, and it reminds me of a Ross Andrew page with how like the panels are all like squared off, but they're kind of like going around the page in this weird way, and they're not too, they're not like that one, the Punch Out page with the big white in the back. It's like they're all very like kind of standard panels, but they're kind of going around the page, and I don't know. It's just the art is very interesting throughout this whole thing, and like I said before, it's moody art. I think it fits this kind of like this sort of moody writing that's kind of like almost like maybe pseudo Edgar Allan Poe. I'm not sure, but it's not.
Yeah, that's
It's
a good
not
point.
like
Yeah,
it's not totally like crime noir stuff. It's more kind of like
right.
literature,
Yeah,
a
like novel. Yeah,
like a gothic literature type deal.
yeah,
Um, the subplots are interesting for the most part. That is interesting. It's like, yeah, like the supporting characters kind of get more growth and sort of more to do. Like I think Batman's biggest thing, Bruce's biggest thing is like the Jason situation. Like, oh, what do I do with Jason? That's kind of like I think the biggest thing that
yeah. That's a good
he
point.
has to
Yeah, the
deal with.
Jason thing. Yeah, which he doesn't. But he doesn't make. Well, he does make a decision. He does. Oh,
Yeah,
you're gonna join me right after I come back from
right.
from this country trip.
Yeah. And then like I think the most engaging subplot might have been the Harvey Bullock stuff, because
Yeah,
it really he's the foil to Gordon, and then he totally comes around in the end, and he has regrets of what happens with
yeah.
Gordon, and that last issue with the battle in the hospital is really kind of
Mhm.
it's a fun one. But anyway, yeah, like it's an interesting run. It's a different Batman than what most are probably used to. But
Mhm.
this is basically the character before everything got rebooted. So
Yeah, and before
that
Frank Miller came back, right? Or and went and did Dark Knight Returns, and so this is literally Batman right before the big change, and but you could start to see where Miller got his not
right,
inspiration, but like Miller wasn't just like creating it himself. This has already been established by Denny
yeah,
O'Neil, and he doesn't take all the credit, obviously, but
yeah.
I mean, but like Mensch, Conway, all these people are building the characters and the Rogues Gallery, and it's interesting. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to go back and read
A lot of
more.
what's interesting is like you're talking about the characters and the villains. Like a lot of this stuff has been adapted. So, like these characters that are kind of appearing here for the first time, some of them have been adapted in other media. So
Yeah,
and because like this is from what I've read, this is essentially the first appearance of Harvey Bullock. There was like another thing, but it was kind of a
no
different
way.
character. This is
Interesting.
this is pretty much the first Harvey Bullock. So it kind of all starts from here.
What?
Despite this other,
Wow.
there was like I think 10 years before there was like a bit character that was in one issue who had the same last name, but they're not the same character from what I understand. And this is like Harvey Bullock, the character that we know from the animated series and
Yeah.
all the other stuff. Like the start of that is pretty much here.
Yeah, no
So
kidding. Yeah, it's because I thought it was already pre-made because it was so like not one for one, but it was pretty accurate to the animated series. Like as far as like his just kind of his demeanor and things like that, and like but having that kind of like I'm kind of a jerk, but I'm also kind of like I still have a good heart,
yeah,
in the end, and that is what the the animated character is. So that's fascinating. I didn't know that. See, that's what again, Doug Bench, man, bringing good stuff in. So I guess again, we're at an hour. I want to keep it around there. Again, I'm doing really well with this, by the way. Right now, hour right now. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me. It really means a lot to me. It's not lost on me. You guys are busy, and the fact you read comics to talk with me is just it's an honor. Thank you. Adam, where can people find you and your awesome personality at? I mean that too. I ain't bullshit. I'm being serious.
Enchilada Legs on Twitter and Spy Dude Radio Network doing
Yeah,
the
bro.
Spy Dude Experience. That's on YouTube and
Yeah.
and Twitter. Zach runs the Twitter, and he's putting in work with all that stuff.
Putting in the
There are
work for sure.
a lot of shows on there. Yeah, me and Paul talk Spider-Man on there, and it's pretty fun. So
We talk Spider-Man a lot. And we just did a JMD Mateus interview, which was phenomenal. It was so much fun. Dude is just gracious as hell, and he said he'd come on the show, and we're gonna get him on the show. And Adam, me and you will do Moonshadow with him, and probably Chris too. Maybe we'll see. But either way, we'll do it together because you've missed out on it, and I'm not gonna let you miss out on that again. So I got your back. I got your back. Michael, where can people find you at, man, Mister Big Time?
You can find me on Twitter at MJ Daily, where I mostly tweet about the Golden State Warriors, video games, Star Wars, and card games, and sometimes comics.
Do you play card games?
I do, yeah. I'm like that. Do you see that thing in my corner? That's stacks and stacks of Magic cards.
Oh, do you
But
play?
lately, I've got a new love. I play a lot of Flesh and Blood, not a lot of Magic anymore.
Do you ever play? Wait, how old school do you go? How far do you go with card games?
I mean, I've played them for a long time, but I'm not like an old OG Magic player. I started playing like in the
right.
I
get you.
Yeah, I've been playing most of my life.
Okay, have you ever played the Middle Earth game? Like the OG Middle Earth game?
No,
dude, that's like my day, bro. When I was in middle school, we used to rock that crap all the time.
I was big on the of course like Pokemon because I was the right age when that boomed.
Yeah, I missed it.
And then the Star Wars
Decipher game?
He's not the Decipher game. I think I was too young for the Decipher game. But the TCG. The TCG was cool. You had your space battles, your ground battles, and your hero battles.
Decipher for life, baby. Decipher for life. Anyway, Michael, again, thank you so much. I love talking comics with you, man. I love getting your insight because it's just it's fresh, it's different. You're kind of you're coming into the world a little bit. You're growing a little bit with it. So I love just getting digging in a little bit and kind of see your perspective. So thank you so much. And I'm not gonna put on a spot right now, but your lady actually convinced me Poison Ivy would be a great the Batman villain. Actually, I'm sure she told you her idea.
I think she mentioned it. Yeah,
dude, I was like, okay. I'll just say it. It's all his Michael's significant other, or my friend. That's how I know Michael. We were talking and she said a great way you could bring Poison Ivy into the Batman. I'm like, what do you do with the plant? She goes, well, you take away the plant thing and have her just like be like a crime boss and have her poison people through plants. I was like, suck me sideways. That's pretty goddamn good. So I was like, damn, they need to I'm like, they might need to go into this. In fact, they might even almost want to like go into like retcon the character a little bit and dial back the plant thing a little bit and maybe bring that aspect. So I'm like, that's pretty goddamn brilliant. I legitimately thought it was brilliant. So I want to just tell Lily again.
I'll let her know.
Let her know. That was brilliant, man. She left an impression on me on that one. I was like, that's pretty damn good. But yeah, thank you. And I want to get her on this too one day. She's a spoiler fan, so I gotta get her on here and get her Stephanie love.
I'll try to convince her.
She can just see what I have in the right corner. I have my Space Demons thing. She can just do that the whole time. She doesn't have to be on the screen. She just do that, and then and we can talk because I love talking about that initial Stephanie Brown Batgirl comics. Those are really good, and we've talked about those before. I know she's into them, so we'll have to get her on for that one day. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Herman22 two N's, aka P Thug. Like, subscribe. Should have said that at the beginning, but I didn't because I suck. I don't really care. Either way, I love doing this. This is fun. It's just more for me to hang out and talk comics with my friends. So that's all I really care about at this point. yeah, go check out Space Demons on Webtoons, please. It's rad. It's fun. All that jazz. But anyway, Chris isn't here, so I'll say it for us. Read more comics, and hopefully I'll see you Tuesday when we do. We do some Batman or more deeper dives, you could say. So anyway, thanks for all watching, and see you next time. Goodbye. Read more comics. Bye.